I'm seeing all these AI experts talking about giving good prompts, but what I've realized, prompting your ChatGPT every time you need a new social media post or an email to go out to your list takes more time than actually writing it yourself from zero. So here's what I, a copywriter and marketing strategist, do to close and download my brain and upcycle my content so it sounds exactly like me and is written how I want using specific copywriting frameworks, and it doesn't take all day. Welcome back to the channel. I'm really happy to be here with you today, and we're going to be talking about a hot topic: AI, content creation, prompting. I'm going to make this really tactical and practical, so I hope it's very helpful and that by the end of the video you can apply some of the tips and strategies that I talk about to your own business. Whether you're a creative course creator or you sell digital products, or you're a coach, even if you're not in the fashion or creative industry, this will be really helpful for anyone who is like banging their head against the wall saying ChatGPT doesn't work, or I'm sick of all these prompts, or perhaps you've spent like $20, $50, $100 on some generic prompting templates. You pop them into your ChatGPT and you still get rubbish output. So the normal way that things have been done is basically experts promoting prompting to use with your ChatGPT. The reason it doesn't really work is because it's not specific to your business or your brand, and the AI doesn't understand your voice just yet. So it's going off very limited information. That's the normal way. And I just want to share a little bit about myself with you so you know where I'm coming from, whether you can take what I say seriously or not. So I have written for a number of AI experts specifically. I won't mention any names because I did that under an NDA. I've written content for Amazon Web Services, a lot about like cloud and all these digital innovations and AI technology that's coming out. I've spoken about AI on numerous podcasts before, and I work with AI tools every day in my business, constantly learning, taking courses, learning from others, developing my own systems as well. So, and I've recently been reading a book called AI Human Fusion by Leanne Sheldon, and that's a really, really interesting read. So shout out to Leanne for that book. And that's what inspired this video today, because she so kindly shared her way of working with AI and training companies, and also came from a copywriting background. And reading this book, I haven't just finished yet, but I'm close to. It just made me think of a lot of different ways of how I'm using AI in my business, and perhaps some of those tools and strategies will be helpful to you as well, because I realized that as I've been working with it, I've developed some unique ways of formatting it and speaking to it and basically downloading my brain into it. I'm a mom to a 3-year-old. I run my own business from my home. I do have limited hours to work. So for me, like using AI to repurpose content and really get things out there just really keeps the ball moving in my business. If it wasn't for that, there is no way I would be able to record and publish one podcast episode a fortnight. Hopefully that can increase soon, that I can put out newsletters, weekly emails to my list, social media content, clips, reels, appear on guest podcasts, and do complete my client work. AI is like wonderful at that. And so I just want to share with you what I've noticed is happening in the industry from other professionals that are talking about it. Of course, I'm not saying anybody is doing it in the wrong way. This is just all things I have observed in my own work and network and the trainings that I have done. And these are all my personal opinions and thoughts. There's obviously more than one way of doing something. So again, going back to this like normal way of working with AI, a lot of the time when we were starting, especially in 2022, when everything developed and kind of ChatGPT became big, there's also Claude and other tools now, we were told typically to just prompt it, like say, I am so-and-so, I do so-and-so, I serve such and such market, please brainstorm 20 social media posts for me on such and such topic. That's really great, but it is still very, very broad and generic, and what I want to say 90% of business owners using AI are still doing today. The magic and the essence of like creating really amazing content, saving yourself hours of time, but it's still really sounding like you, because the biggest problem with this AI generated output is that it just spits out anything. It takes the average of what's on the internet and formats it in a particular way based on materials that the model has been trained on, and gives you the output, which is not a terrible start, especially if you don't come from a journalism or copywriting or marketing background. For a business owner to sit down and try and write something from zero is very overwhelming. It's very stressful. I get it. So ChatGPT has made this barrier to entry much lower. It is a really fantastic starting point. But I'm sure you're not watching this video for generic advice. You're watching it for something really specific to help your business. So what I want to talk about is, firstly, I want to talk about some of the problems that happen when you're not utilizing ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you use. I personally use ChatGPT, and I also used Jasper in the past, which is really good for marketing copy, but I've just found that the output for ChatGPT was higher quality and the research that it did was more in-depth, but this should work for any tool that you choose to use. I'm going to talk about it from the ChatGPT angle. So when you don't program it in the way that I will show you, the risks that are involved is that your content is still going to sound very generic, because you're going to be prompting it using generic prompts. And then a lot of the time when you're prompting it so much, you just get sick of prompting it, and those prompts become less detailed. Another thing is when you're using extremely long prompts that are overly detailed, that also confuses the GPT. So that's also frustrating. It's still going to sound like ChatGPT because it's still taking content from the internet that everybody else is using. Even if your prompt is amazing, or you've paid like $100 and had it customized, it's still not going to sound exactly like you and your business and your voice. And the biggest thing about putting out your marketing content is about making sure that voice is aligned, because if your voice is aligned, that's what sounds like you. Your nuances, your little stories, your little tweaks, things that ChatGPT just cannot know. It's not possible for it to know. So I'm going to show you how it can find out. Another thing that happens, especially if you're working in teams, is that everyone has their own way of working with ChatGPT. They have their own way of prompting it, even using the same prompt, 2 different people, 3 different people, 4 different people using it. It will come out completely different in one way, but also the same in the other sense, that it will still sound generic. It will still take a lot of editing from your end, which is not a bad thing, because it's a good way to use a first draft and then rewrite it. It stops you from having this blank page syndrome. But now I'm going to share with you my creative method that I have developed that basically collects key information about you. Basically, you clone your mind and put it into ChatGPT or whatever tool you use, and it starts to learn who you are. It starts to take on this persona of you. It's a little bit creepy. Yes, I get it. It does creep me out myself how much these AI tools learn about us. So on that note, I do want to give a disclaimer and say, don't upload anything into the AI that you wouldn't publish publicly. That is like really private information, sensitive information, like even passwords, bank details, all these things. At this stage, we don't know what will happen with this data now or in the future, 10, 20, 50 years time. So please keep it basic to some level, that you're not sharing things that you don't want publicly getting out. We've gone through this phase as well with social media, people having this learning curve of like what's okay to post or not, and understanding that once a picture is up on the internet, it's there forever. So do take that same precaution when you're uploading things into an AI tool, whatever that is, whether it's ChatGPT or something completely different. I think that's just really good to keep in mind. So I'm going to teach you now how to basically clone your mind. So this is the exact system I use for myself and for my clients when I'm creating strategies and writing copy, to make sure that everything sounds really aligned and that I'm not missing any details, because those little nuances and stories, like including dates, names, places, as long as they're not private information, is what makes your copy really unique and people drawn to you and your story. You can do this yourself, but what I do with my clients is I schedule a usually 90-minute onboarding call, which is quite long, but bear with me. I ask a specific set of questions that I know will trigger responses related to their business, how they grew up, what led them to their profession, to their career, certain moments that really triggered something in them, whether that was good or bad. For example, I work with many fashion founders, and for a lot of them, a really big pivotal moment of stepping away from their corporate career and jumping in and going all in on themselves, on their own business, is a really toxic work environment. And it's typically to do with like one particular experience that's really embedded in their mind. And once we dig into that and bring that up and talk about it, those particular content blocks, and I call it building your content wardrobe, those particular wardrobe pieces like really make up your wardrobe and your content and the things that you talk about over and over again that you share with your audience. So you record this origin story, and I have a specific list of questions that I ask, and the conversation is usually very natural. Like the client doesn't necessarily know that, I'm reading off a book, and I also like analyze and take note of how that conversation is going, and if there's a particular thing that somebody said that like is intriguing, I go further into it and ask more questions. Then I also ask if there's certain things or places or stories that they want to avoid. For example, if they're comfortable sharing names of kids or family members, if they don't want to mention it. In my case, I have a young daughter. I don't like to show her face publicly on the internet. So that would be one of my boundaries. Everybody is different, so I always make sure I check in about that. And this origin story forms the base of who is this person. I also talk to them about their business, how did it start? So you can start doing that. If I know it might sound weird, either you can sit down and just do a voice recording with yourself, or invite like a colleague or a good friend to do it with you, to prompt you if you've got your questions ready. That might make you feel a bit more comfortable. Do what's best for you. There's no one perfect way. The end goal is to then have this story recorded. And even if you record visually, even better, because if you were to create more content in the future, you can take little bits of that, of you telling your story. But then what I do with that story, the origin story, I take the transcript of that and download that into a ChatGPT, and then I have certain specific things that I do research on, and those are, I look into the business, like what happens in the market, I look at the competitors, I look at really going deep on the audience and the pain points of the audience of the business that you're trying to sell to. Really go deep, not just like I hate my life. It's much deeper than that. Like, what happens if you don't change something? You're going to spend your whole life miserable. Like, for example, if you are a fashion business owner and you are working on your business, perhaps you've gotten it to a certain point, you're making enough money to scrape by, but it's not enough to make a comfortable living, and you're on the edge and you're thinking, if I don't turn this around, I'm going to have to go back to my toxic corporate job with my toxic boss, working crazy hours. I won't see my kids, or I won't have a social life. I'm going to feel stressed out and going to hate my life. Like, really go deep, understand what those pain points are, because those are all things you're going to be using in your marketing material and feeding your ChatGPT to learn from. So once you do all this really in-depth research, and I've got a framework of 8 specific points, 8 to 10, where I really go deep. Like, I look into the persona, the customer avatar. So map out, who is this customer avatar? Like, go quite deep, give them a name, give them an age, give them an occupation. What do they do for fun? Why do they stay up late at night? Why would they want to buy your solution? Why do they need it? Why can't they live without your product or service? And in a lot of businesses, if you're a smaller business, that might just be like one main avatar, but in bigger businesses, that may be 2 or 3. So really looking at it. Recently, I've been working with a founder, and we actually mapped out that for her fashion business, where she is selling education, she's selling courses and resources. She is targeting like a fashion cohort, but within that scope, she's actually got 4 different avatars. One is like a student who is in the middle of their studies, they've just finished and they want to upskill, like they're not getting some of those skills at uni. They're also in this learning phase. They want to absorb as much as possible. Like this recent grad who just graduated and now they're stressed because they can't find a job. It's really competitive, and upskilling and getting some extra skills that weren't taught at uni will help them stand out and strengthen their portfolio. Then the other avatar this client has is a working professional who is working in a corporate company in a fashion brand, and they're seeing some people being made redundant because some jobs are being taken. They're not needed as much because of the technology speeding things up. They realize that if they want to be the one that stays in the team as it starts being cut over the next few years, they need to upskill and have those skills, say in AI design or 3D design. So that was another avatar. And then the third avatar was a business owner who has their own brand and wants to upskill so they can stay in business and not get outbeaten by other brands who are utilizing newer technologies. And then the fourth avatar we identified was somebody who has stepped away from the industry for some time, whether it's for personal reasons, family reasons, perhaps it's a mom who had kids and she's been out of the workforce for the last 3 to 5 years, and now she's going back in. Her kids are in childcare and she realizes there's been this big shift and she's behind, so she's looking for some resources to upskill to then step back into the workforce and get that dream job with confidence. So those were 4 different customer avatars, and 4 different course offerings that this business owner has. A different avatar would be suited to it as the primary audience member. So then you can target your marketing to that main audience, and then the other avatars would be the secondary audience. So that's how you would determine your customer avatar. If you'd like me to do a video more in depth about how I come up with customer avatars and the research I do, let me know in the comments below. I can do that because I really want to make content that is really valuable and helpful and you will enjoy and that you can use and apply to your business and actually see a difference. So then we've got different competitors. Really important to get deep on that brand voice. Also pull together all different content that you already have that's out there that you've written, because that's obviously come from you. I really love curating voice related content and what I mean by that is content that you've spoken. If you've been on podcasts before, if you've done talks, presentations, even meetings, because when we speak, it's really natural. It just comes out of us. When it's your industry, your business, it's your baby, you can talk about it all day long. Pull all that content together. If you haven't been doing any of that, I highly recommend you get an AI plugin. For example, Loom has an option. I use read.ai notes. I'm not endorsing them or being paid by them or anything. I use their product. It's a transcription tool. It attaches to your meetings and it starts recording your meetings. And then you've got those notes. Really amazing for content creation. Saves so much time because you can pull things out, but it's also amazing at training your ChatGPT. So once you've got all these things ready and available, I always download it either as a PDF or a text file. A lot of the time, voice notes or the transcripts from podcasts or calls, I download as a text file, so .txt. I find that the GPT reads it better in that format for some reason, especially when there's timestamps attached to it. Don't ask me why. And I use that. And then what I do is you go into the back end of ChatGPT in the settings and you can program your GPT. So you can upload these things. Think of it as implanting memories and information into the brain of your ChatGPT. What I mean by that is once you've done it, once you've uploaded all this content, all the research, all your origin story, other previous types of content that you've written, the GPT starts to learn, okay, this is so-and-so, and these are the words they use. This is so-and-so, this is the language they use. So then when you start prompting it to actually create you posts, emails, whatever, and directing it to pull directly from it's called knowledge base in ChatGPT, it starts taking words that you've actually used. And then you can say, when you're writing an email, you could say, when did I travel to X country, or what year did I quit my job? Check the transcript notes from the knowledge base and it's going to pull it out. So then when you're actually writing, it's going to write a lot more in your voice. And when you go to create content or write your marketing assets, whether you pull directly from the knowledge base or you attach like some notes of a podcast that you've been on and then say, use my words exactly, don't change anything, then that is the moment when it actually sounds like you. That means that the ChatGPT, it's not pulling the information from everything that's on the internet, like I mentioned recently, that's really generic. It's actually pulling it from inside the actual GPT brain, which you have programmed it with. And that's where the magic happens. Again, I want to say that, all these things, you got to take them with a grain of salt. It's really good for creating higher level drafts and ideations that are really relevant to your business. That's what it's really fantastic at, because that means the GPT can actually understand your business. It's not just making things up and assuming. It knows your target audience. It knows your competitors. It knows your product. Like, train it on your product and services. Give it all this information so it has like a really holistic understanding of everything in your business, similarly to what you would do if you were hiring an assistant or a junior in your business. Like, you would give them a really in-depth, thorough onboarding that would take a lot longer than doing it to a GPT, because they obviously learn automatically. How you wouldn't just hire somebody and then on the first day ask them to write like 5 articles in your brand voice, like using all these nuances that you like to use. Like, you train that person up. That's the same as you will do to your GPT. So that is the key frameworks that I use to train it. You can see a world of difference. And then once I've trained that GPT up, if I'm using content, for example, I can talk about myself. I feature on some podcasts, and whenever there's a new episode that goes out, what I do is I take the transcript from that podcast. If it's on YouTube, they have like auto-generated transcripts, so it can just copy and paste. But if not, then I just turn the podcast on and turn the Otter app on my phone and transcribe the episode, the podcast. And then I can use that podcast. I download it as a TXT file, and I can use that to create a bunch of social media posts for myself. And the amazing thing is, it's actually content, like it's words I've said myself. So it's genuine content. I'm not making it up. I'm not taking somebody else's work. It's the ideas have come from myself, from things that I've said elsewhere, and I'm literally upcycling it. That's what I like to call it, upcycling content, because right now we live in a content society. We can't get around it. And as a business owner, you're so busy. Like, I get it. You barely have time to do it. But if you have done like one feature podcast a week or even a month, that can turn into like at least 8 different social posts. That can be a few carousels. You can take real content from it if the host is happy to share the video with you, or sometimes they do it themselves. You can turn that into 1 or 2 newsletters. You can turn that into emails as well in different formats. You can turn it into 4 emails, because especially when we're talking in a podcast, quite a few ideas that are mentioned. So that could be that one long piece of content could be 1 month of content for you in your business. It's amazing. And then if you've trained your Chat GPT, or your GPT, whatever brand you use, if you've trained it on yourself, then when you start to pull out this content and frame it to suit your audience and to suit the format that you work, it will just cut down a lot of time and effort for you, but you're still using your own words and your own ideas. And what I love about that compared to like constantly prompting is that firstly, it's more clean, because every time you're doing something new, you can start a new chat and the GPT has the same memory, compared to if you're going on ChatGPT and starting a new chat, and then after a while it gets so messy, it starts losing memory. And it starts hallucinating. Hallucinations in ChatGPT or AI tools mean that it starts basically like flipping out and it makes things up, or it doesn't remember what you said, because if you've been talking to it for like a month, it's not going to remember what you said at the start of the month compared to a few messages ago. So you're going to be so annoyed because you have to retell it, and then you see it keeps like spasming and hallucinating over and over. And then in the end, like you just throw in the towel and say, I'm going to write this myself from scratch. So having this custom GPT also allows you to start a new chat every time. It's like a lot more clean, a lot less messy. And you can also test the GPT by asking it questions. That's how you know you've programmed it properly. So once everything is done, you can jump on like onto your GPT, name it, whatever you want to name it. Like mine is called Evelina, so myself. What do you do? And it says, and then you can test it like specifically and be like, where did you work? If it's understood and everything's programmed correctly, pull that information from the knowledge base, but just keep prompting it to use it from the knowledge base. That's really important. Once you have that draft output or the ideas, like for me, it really depends on what I'm working on. A lot of content, I do still genuinely, I write it from scratch because I just really love writing. And sometimes I'll start with an idea and I just like keep going and going. Like this morning, newsletter for a client of mine, and I was putting together the outline, and it was like sometimes I will use ChatGPT to help me with the outline, like just to organize my thoughts. But in this case, I was just on such a roll that I didn't even use it. Like I basically wrote out the whole newsletter like that from my own brain because that topic was like really relevant. I'm passionate about it. I knew exactly what I wanted to write and how I wanted to write it. So I just really used everything that I had inside my brain. And then I made some notes like, insert data here, insert images here. And then what I can do with that newsletter is I can clean it up using ChatGPT. So fixing up the wording, I switch a lot between US English, Australian, British English. So sometimes my brain can switch from one to the other, like I forget. So the GPT is like really fantastic at fixing up little nuances like that, little full stop, formatting. And then I always make sure, I call it accessorizing my copy. I always make sure whether it's written from scratch or whether you are using AI to help you produce content, this is the final 10% that will make the 90% of difference to what you put out, is you always need to give it a human touch at the end. And I call it accessorizing, which is the formatting, like the body language of your content. It's how you speak. Like for example, for me, I use some bold lettering to highlight words. I use italic to highlight, to show like internal thoughts or feelings. I like to stretch out certain words. Like for example, if it's the word long and I'm trying to accentuate a word, like by just stretching out the O and putting numerous O's next to each other, it just visually creates this illusion of long compared to just having it as long. So by adding a few emojis here and there and capitalizing certain things, if it's like something impactful, capitalizing the word, underlining. Sometimes I highlight things like a scrapbook. Like I'm really into, I haven't done scrapbooking in a long time, but I really love that kind of like artsy hands-on thing. I'm guessing you're creative if you're watching this video, so this might resonate with you and with your audience too. Like I'll highlight things in a certain color to bring it out, to bring out a point, to accentuate it. And that's like the 10% that gives your brand that personality. And it does look quite different. Like I often get replies to my emails that are like, oh, this is really fun, this really resonated. Or I had one where somebody replied and said, oh, I really like this. It sounds, I don't know why, but it sounds really different to all the other emails out there. Enjoy reading it. And that's really what you want your audience to feel when they're interacting with you, because it's not like most people won't get the chance to sit down with you one-on-one and talk to you. Like your time is precious. If it's somebody that doesn't know you so well, what they will know about you online is like what you communicate, the words you put out there and the videos you put out there. And if it's not a video, it's literally words, which are a reflection of your spoken words, but in a text format. So really be mindful of what you put out there and really make sure that it's true to you. Quality over quantity. And this programming your GPT should really help increase that quality of your output and also reduce your stress, because you won't be needing to spend as much time writing and coming up with new content now that you know how to program it, how to train it based on your existing content and your business and your services and other marketing copy that you have. So that is my advice. If you're not sure, don't post it. like just sleep on it a little bit, because again, once it's out there, even if you delete it, someone may have screenshotted it and then you don't want it to come back and bite you. So my advice is always check it, and unless you're 100% certain this is a reflection of you and you would say those exact words in real life, don't share it. And again, I'm just a little bit tired of AI gurus pushing prompts or selling books that are just really generic and actually don't get to the root of making your content sound like you, because the whole point of like prompting your GPT is that it increases the quality of your content and it increases the speed. To me, those prompts, they actually do neither. They just cause more stress. So if you would like me to create a more detailed video of how to create an actual GPT, maybe taking you through the behind the scenes, let me know down below. And if you're watching and you would like support with creating these custom GPTs, they're really fantastic because you set them up once and it's done, and then it's like very, very little maintenance on updating it, which I do encourage you to do as your business grows and develops and you're sitting on more content. But to get started, this is like amazing, like so helpful. You're gonna love it. So give it a go. Let me know in the comments below what you thought and how this resonated. And if you're using prompts or you have already trained your GPT, like I'd love to hear your experiences down below. And if you have something you would like me to talk about specifically in another video, again, let me know.